we've gotten, we started with the, while you were working on your technicals, and thanks for calling in, we were talking about the Chicago response or lack of response to backup for the federal agents. And we talked a little bit about SROs, and we're definitely going to talk about the SROs at the end, because I want to talk about, because they are current, because they're starting to come back across the country where they were defunded. So we definitely want your perspective and chime in from what Pete and I talked about at the beginning. I have my local Albemarle County, Virginia, which is south of the Mason-Dixon line, has finally brought back their SROs. So it'd really be great to hear from you doing the homicide work that you did in Brooklyn, and what your perspective is. So we will get back to that. But I want to bring to two cases that I don't want to run out of time for. I think they're probably two of the most emotional and disturbing cases that I'm aware of. I mean, there's a lot of those. And so to say one is more than the other, any life taken is sad and disturbing and is unacceptable. But these are really, really egregious cases, and you had the unfortunate privilege of working on, but it's God's work. So I still consider it a privilege because it is going to happen. You couldn't prevent it. There's nothing you could do. So which one do you want to start with? Would you want to start with Nixmary, or do you want to start with the Metzingi?
Yeah, I'll start with the Nixmary only because that one happened. That one happened in January of 2006. January 2006, I get a call in the middle of the night, 2:00 in the morning, that a wanted card dropped. So it was a perp I was looking for in the 7-5. So I got out of bed, headed to the 7-5, was working on the case, and then the phone rang in the 7-5 squad. It was a 7-9 sergeant looking for night watch, but night watch had been out on another case. I was scheduled for a day tour that day, so I figured, you know what, I'm up next. I'll head over to the location, and I'll let night watch know to meet me over there. So I head over to the 7-9 Bed-Stuy, and I walk up into this 3-story apartment building. I meet with the first officers on the scene, and I asked them, you know, what do we have? He says, parents say that the young girl drowned in the bathtub. I said, okay. I said, where's the body? They said in the rear room. So it was a railroad type apartment. When I walked all the way to the back, I see Nixmary Brown with red sweatpants on, lying face up, and she's black and blue from head to toe, eyes sunken in. She had a ligature mark on her left leg. It was obvious she did not drown in a bathtub. It was obvious that this child was the victim of child abuse. We continued the investigation. We had night watch detectives take the parents out of the house. The house turned out to be a house of horrors. It really did. It was a torture room inside the house. They had a bedroom set up for Nixmary. It had 2 cribs in it, a mattress on the floor, and it had one of the old wooden school chairs. And that school chair was up against a radiator that had rope to it, which obviously left, you know, they obviously tied her up, and that's why she had the ligature mark on her left ankle. The other thing I wanted to say about this is, you know, anybody who would lose a kid in a drowning, the last thing you're going to do is put on a pair of sweatpants. You know, you're going to try to survive your child, and not worry about putting on sweatpants when somebody else comes into the house. So it was a very, it was a horrifying scene for sure, you know. But you know what? Working in Brooklyn North, we've seen this on a regular basis. This wasn't the first child abuse case I saw, the first death. You know, you go through the motions. You know, people will ask me all the time when I've shared these stories with students at school and stuff like that, and they're like, "Didn't you just want to beat the crap out of the perp?" Well, I'd be wrong if I said I didn't, but you can't. You got to get to the truth. You got to get this person to talk to you and speak to you. Right. So we headed back to. Well, let me go back to the apartment. Inside the apartment, she had there was a litter box, and we found out from Detective Sean McTighe, my partner, when he interviewed the kids, that they were forced to use that litter box and sometimes even eat the feces. Not just Nixmary, but the other children inside the apartment. The reason she got beaten bad that night was Christmas had just passed, and the parents didn't really have a lot of money. But that day, they went out to Target down in Brooklyn, and we actually got them on video with mom, dad, and the two kids, and Nixmary's not there. She's obviously locked up in the apartment. But when they got home, I guess she was starving to death. She got out of the bedroom, and she ate one of his boys, because he had two boys with the mother. That was his biological daughter. Yogurt, which led to the severe beating and the sexual assault in the bathroom. Detective McTighe had found out through interviewing the oldest kid that they were letting mom know that Nixmary was moaning in the back room, and mom was just telling them she'll be all right, she'll be all right, till she's not moaning no more and she's dead, and they have a dead body on their hands. And they make that phone call to 911 to say that their daughter had drowned in the bathtub. We get the perps, mom and dad, back to the 7-9 squad. Detective Georgina Valentin interviewed the female mother because she only spoke Spanish, and Sean and I and Detective Schneider interviewed the father. And the father just basically said that all he did was discipline her, and this is the way he disciplined her, and that she was an evil child, that she was possessed, and he felt like she deserved the punishment, that she wasn't nice to his kids, and she would break his computer, eat the yogurt, and he didn't agree with it. It was just a very very devastating case. You know, it changed the workings of the Children's Administration Services Department, the school system. We ended up hiring, I think, well, not we hired, but they started hiring retired NYPD detectives to go work at ACS.
Yeah, so Jim, I remember that, and I remember a lot of those folks going out to work there. But I think where we are now, 21 years later, was it 19 years later, whatever, 19 years later, my math, sorry, public school education, remember, hung out with the SROs. I didn't hang out with the teachers. I'm not so sure that they're really pulling these kids out of these houses that they should be at the rate they should be, regardless of the level of investigations.
You're absolutely right. They're not.
Yeah. So some things did change,
a lot,
but I don't think a lot. I don't think the demonstrative change that should have has taken place. So my wife only knows me after I retired from the job, and she's met all of you. She's met Pete. She's met all the troops that I hang out with, and she's heard all the stories. Except she hasn't really heard all the stories, because there's probably stories she'll probably listen to now. And she's like, oh, all right. There's an overlap. Like I was not here for this case. It was 2 months after I left to go to a cold case. So I wasn't involved in it. However, she knows there's multiple stories like this, and she hasn't heard all of them. And she said, I kind of struggle with trying to understand, like, how normal you guys are, and Tommy, how you are, because I don't come home, I don't kick the dog, I don't beat my wife, I don't beat the kids. Like, how do you cope with all this stuff? And she goes, and how do you stop this? How do you stop this? And I go, as far as the kids go, they don't take kids away fast enough. They leave kids in the home way too long. The second I walk into a house and I open the refrigerator and there's 1 quart of spoiled milk and a half-eaten orange, that kid's gone. I'm sorry. So that's Pete.
I did a search warrant in the Throgs Neck project, which was, by housing standards, a nice project. 2705 Dewey Avenue, 8th floor. The family's name was Mulrain. I'll name them because they're savages. When we hit the door and went in, we find a baby in the crib. In the crib, baby's alive. In the crib is 4 or 5 pieces of dog shit. Some dried up, days old, some newer. Same thing like you just pointed out. We called BCW back. That's what they called it back then. They came. Within a week, that kid was back in that house. I mean, these people were crackheads, just complete idiots, and the courts always deferred, giving the kid back to the family. So yeah, man, it's disgusting. I remember that was 1988, man, and I remember it was like it was yesterday.
You know,
Yeah. So I'm sorry.
They say history repeats itself. You know, you go back to the Lisa Steinberg case. That was 20 years prior in 1986. You know, it's amazing how, you know, the same stuff just keeps happening over and over and over. Like, does anybody pay attention to what's going on in this world? You know, that's what you ask yourself. Mm-hmm. It's just disgusting, you know, that this can happen. Same similar case. The only difference here was mom was involved in it. She was not a victim of abuse. The kids were, but she wasn't.
So let's talk about the sentencing in a minute, because I think they both got pretty long sentences. So we'll talk about what your perspective on that is. However, I want to call out some comments. Ron Layson, who tried to help you, he couldn't. So Ron, it's a failure. You couldn't get his image up. Sorry, Ron, but we need Jimmy's camera up. Showing integrity from the NYPD. I remember that the person answering the phone would have taken a message, but you went to the job. So kudos to you. Housing for life. The job changes you. It kind of does. I had this conversation with John McCarry this week through text message, not personal, but when we were prepping for Jimmy Kennedy, I was telling him what cases were coming up. He's like, man, this is God's work. And I was like, you know what? For me, and I'd love to hear your perspectives, walking through the crime scenes that we walk through, like the adults, the headshots, the body shots, stabbings, eviscerations, even the serial case, the Brooklyn Strangler in Brooklyn North 9079 squad, we had the 7 girls killed. Like, I just walked through those and they were pretty much business as usual. I will say, though, as horrific as those crime scenes were, they were fine. I just walked through them. It was business. The kids bothered me. The kids really bothered. Like, there was a demonstrable difference between me walking through a horrific crime scene of an adult and then a kid.
You've just watched a clip from our live episode. Click the description to watch the full episode. Like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this.